Hey guys, so I wanted to share a quick thought with you. I'm over here just kind of hanging out, enjoying nature, taking a walk through the park. I'm currently in Snug Harbor on Staten Island, and my family and I, we're going through so much right now. It's just a lot, and I started to deal with some health things again. I mean, things that I haven't dealt with in literally, I would say about 12 years, all of a sudden just came up. It just came up for me. And I kind of know the reason why it came up is because I have to be able to finally just let it go. It's almost like it's surreal. It's almost like, I can't even believe this same issue has come back up in my life. And at first I was thinking maybe I haven't dealt with it. Maybe I need to deal with it all over again. And then something inside of me was like, no, that's definitely not the issue. You don't have to deal with it all over again, because there were so many things that I got, so many lessons learned from the last experience that I had to go through. And it was bad. It was severe. I mean, I couldn't get out of bed for like a year straight. When I would give talks, people would have to carry me up to the front, just to give the talk, and I would exert all of my energy just giving that talk, and then I would be wiped out for a week straight again. But I learned a lot through that process. I learned about health. I learned about like real deal faith. I learned so much about humility. There are so many different lessons that I learned. I learned about like really surrendering. And when you fully surrender to something, when you fully surrender to that place in your life, when you completely just say, you know what, I give up. I can't do it anymore. I'm not going to strive. I'm not going to allow my ego to control the situation. Sorry, the sun all of a sudden is just like blaring in my eyes. I'm not going to allow the ego. Here we go. I'm not going to allow my ego to control the situation, but I'm finally just going to give up. I'm going to give into the spiritual part of who I am. And maybe you've never accessed that before. Maybe you've never accessed that deep spiritual part of who you are. And maybe because of what you're going through right now, life, the universe, reality has finally conspired to get you into this place in your life, to allow you to be backed into the corner of life, so you have no other choice but to give up. And that's when our false self begins to die and our true self ultimately emerges, our larger self emerges, and we can step into a larger perspective. Maybe you've been living out of your ego for so long. Maybe you're finally being invited through what you're currently going through. You're finally being invited into a deeper place, into a more full, more truthful, more authentic place in your life. Usually the way up is really the way down. I know that firsthand. I was 19 years old and my whole life came to a crashing halt. And I finally had to give up. I had to give up the anger. I had to give up this ego part of who I was, this identity of this really hard, tough kid, this persona that I lived into, that I grew into. But it wasn't my true self, because who I really was deeply loving and deeply caring about people. But I had to put up these walls, and I had to put up these defense mechanisms in order to survive, in order to emotionally survive. So anyway, I'm saying all that because, once again, I found myself in this season of my life right now really going through it, and I was saying to myself, even right now, because my wife and I are going through this crazy business deal that actually has gotten me to the point, the stress of it and the timing of it, and just the high stakes that we're playing at right now. Like little old us, how did we even get to this place? You know, we look at each other, my wife and I, and like, how did we even get to the place where we can be doing a business deal like this? So anyway, it's been crazy. We've had a lot of pressure. It's got me to the point where I feel almost like just throwing up. And so we've really been going through it right now. And I'm over here in the park just reflecting. And, you know, finally we got an extension on this business deal, which gives us another month to kind of hammer everything out. We got an extension on it. And I'm saying to myself, I'm just reflecting on what's going on. I'm trying to see things positively. I'm writing down some notes, just trying to go through this in a healthy way, in a good way, and to try to be open and aware to what the Spirit is trying to do even inside of me through this process. Because it's not just about the deal. The deal is the deal, whether it survives or whether it blows up. It's not about the deal. It's not about the business. It's not about the money, but it's about who we're becoming. It's about who I'm becoming personally in my life, and how that reflects in my parenting, and how I show up for my children, and how I show up for my wife, and who we're becoming together as business partners, and how that translates into our intimate relationship, and how that translates into our family dynamic. I mean, there's all sorts of things at play here. Life is always about our growing. It's always about raising our capacity and growing into the fullness of who we've been created to be. It's always about that. It's never about the surface stuff in our life. It's never about the job. It's never about the boss that's given us a hard time. It's never about the friction with our employees, or it's never about the success that we have and now I'm on top and I've become this big broker, or I've become this. It's never about our fame or our fortune or even our failures. It's always about this. In that space, there's magic, there's spirituality. In that space, there's the capacity to grow. In that space, there's deep learning. And there's awareness, and there's faith building. There's all sorts of things intertwined in that. So for me, I want to write this stuff down because I want to extrapolate those lessons. I want to grab a hold of those lessons and allow those lessons to shape my life and shape the person that I become. Anything else would be foolish. Anything else for me, and I've grown to this point, and I fail all the time. There's seasons of my life where I'm on autopilot. I'm going through life on autopilot, and then all of a sudden something will finally get me out of that place, and I'll wake up and I'll say, holy crap, like I've just been living the past month on autopilot. So anyway, as my wife and I are going through all this, I'm trying to break it down. I'm trying to understand the dynamics at play. I'm trying to learn from it and grow from it. And I got to this place where I wrote down, like, I'll just read it. I have to learn to trust God more, to really just let go and know and willingly surrender, and really just trust the universe, to trust the Spirit of God, that no matter what happens within this deal, no matter what happens, that God had a plan in it all. That there is a grand plan, because you know what? God, the universe, the Spirit, Source, whatever you want to call that, it is a reality. It's rocked my life several times, and I identify with that as God. And so, for me, it's God. I've met God. I've experienced the Spirit of God in my life. And it's totally transformed my life. It's totally rocked my life in many different seasons of my life, starting when I was 19 years old. And so I feel like I have to trust. I have to put my trust, and I'm writing down, like, I have to trust God more. And then I got to this point where I was saying, and this is kind of the point of my ramble right now, I got to the point where I said, you know, God is going to have his way. He's going to come and help me in this process. He's going to help orchestrate it. You know, and then I really started thinking, I said, is that true? And I came to the conclusion that for me right now in my life, you know what? God is actually hands off of this deal. What he is doing, what the Spirit is doing, is observing this place that I'm at. And really what's God is way more interested in is my growth. You know, it's like a good father who teaches his child growing up, and the child finally gets older, and the father doesn't step into the situation anymore. You know, maybe when the child was young, of course, you step in, you teach the child, you find all of these different things that the child goes through as teaching experience. And I do the same thing with my two sons. I look for those teaching moments and I step in. But there's going to come a time where they're going to do something, and I already start doing it with my older boy and my young son, not to the extent that I feel God is doing that with me right now. But you know, you let them do it, and you watch, you sit back and you observe, and you see how they're going to handle a situation. You know, you see how they're going to handle a scuffle at the park, you know, where one kid pushes my son off the slide. You want to see how he's going to react. You want to see his ability to think about and recall those teachable moments that you had with them. You want to see how they're going to react when you're not there and you're not going to step in. Did they get the lesson? Did they truly understand when you were teaching them about that, you know, 2 years ago or a few months ago? Are they going to get it? So, you know, I sit back and I watch and I observe and I see how my sons are going to react. You know what? I feel like that's exactly what God is doing with us right now. He's sitting back and he's wondering, you know, you're going through this. How are you going to react? You know, did you learn the lessons that I already brought you through? You know, and I think that's the same thing right now with me and my health. I got slammed at the same exact time. My family and I were in Montreal. I don't know if it's because of the stress of this business deal, or I haven't fully got the whole of the message, but I got slammed. I got slammed with kidney issues again. I had a kidney disease in 2008, right before I got married. I was diagnosed with kidney disease, and I've been battling this thing for years, but I've been good for the past few years. And then all of a sudden, the onset of that kidney disease, it started to show itself while I was in Montreal. My face started getting puffy, and at the same time, a few days later, all of a sudden my stomach starts really hurting. And I've dealt with ulcerative colitis in the past, and all of a sudden the ulcerative colitis came back. You know, I've only been a few days right now where I've been able to get out of bed and function well, but for the past month I've been laid up in bed with ulcerative colitis, and I don't know if it's because of the stress of the deal, like I was saying, or if there's some other, you know, something else, some other lesson that I'm needing to learn through all this. But even with this, I kind of feel like God is sitting back, allowing me to respond to it. I think this is these are like shadow diseases, if you could kind of catch that. It's there to test me in if I got the lesson. And this is showing up 12 years later, the ulcerative colitis. I dealt with this 12 years ago. Did I get the lesson? Am I going to be faithful and live that out and walk through this quickly this time? I don't have to get the whole big lesson. Am I going to walk through it quickly and finally understand what's at play and finally go through this season? Right now for me, it lasted about a month. Was I able to walk through this in a different way, with the knowing the answers to the past lessons, because I lived that out? Can I walk through it and apply those lessons? Or maybe there's something else in it. I still don't know the whole of it all. But here's the deal. Maybe you're going through stuff right now and you're wondering, like, what the heck? Maybe you are a faithful person. Maybe you are, you do have some sort of belief system and you're not just going through life on autopilot. And maybe you're just like, man, what is going on? Like is God gonna come through? And you know what? Maybe maybe you're asking the wrong questions. Maybe God takes delight. It's almost like a Job experience. God takes delight in what you're going through because he has faith in you. He knows that you're gonna go through it and you're gonna go through it well. Or maybe, this is the very thing that's going to jar you out of this place of living life on autopilot. And it's time to step into your bigger self. I don't know. I just wanted to kind of share my heart, just share some of these ramblings with you. I just found it really, really interesting that I'm over here thinking that God is going to intervene. He's going to step in and he's going to show up in this way. When then God reveals to me, no, that's not the case. I'm actually sitting back and taking pleasure in watching my son. Not my little boy. I want to see how my son, who I've trusted with so much, how is my son going to deal with this situation? And it's totally about sonship. Sonship is everything. We need more sons in this earth, because good sons turn into strong fathers. And if you can come, right, if you could in life come from a strong identity in sonship, you'll live life in a very strong way, because sonship means you've learned the lessons. You've allowed those lessons in life. You've allowed your failure to enlighten you, to wake you up, instead of take you down and take you out. And so it's really about sonship, and it gives God great pleasure to sit back and watch his sons in the earth. There's a lot of little boys out there, and they've never allowed themselves to go through deep hurt and deep failure and allow that to shape them, instead of that hurt and that failure in life just totally taking them out and allowing them to live in an unconscious way. So many people live unconsciously because of the way that they've been brought up. And instead of that wound turning into a sacred wound, turning into something that can bring life to other people, that wound has totally taken them out. And it has caused them to perpetuate that wounding in their family, in their relationships, in their marriage, in their life, and the people that are closest to them, instead of allowing that wound to be a sacred wound and for you to bring healing to the people that are closest to you. But there are many things in life, these traumatic experiences, that bring us to the place where our wounds finally become sacred wounds, and we're able to go back and heal that little boy and that little girl who was traumatized by just family upbringing or a very specific traumatic experience in their life. So anyway, God is looking for sons and daughters. And just because the spirit, just because the universe, just because, you know, whatever it is you think it is, and you shake your fist at that thing and you say, well, where are you? If you're real, then why did this happen to me? Or why am I living like this? Not realizing that most of your life experience is really, it comes down to just self-fulfilling prophecies. It comes down to the frequency that you're putting out every single day, day in and day out, and you're attracting that which you're putting out. You know, you're saying to yourself, I wish I had more money. You know, I wish I had more money. And because you're always wishing and you're bringing to life this negative frequency about money. Man, I don't have enough money. Or, you know, my relationship sucks. How did I get into this relationship? I can't believe I'm in this marriage. I can't believe that this is what it's turned into. I thought it was going to be about, you know, I thought marriage was going to be about this, and you had this whole grand, this idea of what it's going to be, and it didn't turn into that. And so, you know, you're let down. But I totally forgot. I forgot my train of thought. So anyway, I'm just kind of rambling and sharing my heart with you, but I think it's really important. You know, God is, once again, I feel like the Spirit is looking for sons and daughters who have been able to go throughout life, go throughout the things that they're going through, and go through it well. To go through it well, and you know, to take copious notes as you do go through it. Sorry, the sun is in my eyes again. To take real good notes as you do go through it, so that you can get the lesson, so that you can share the experience with those around you and for the people who need it most in your life. Anyway, you know, if you made it through this whole video, God bless you. I know it's long. But if you did, I know that you're someone that A, is ready to go to the next level, or B, you're really going through it right now, and you need to hear this because you're going through it all wrong. You're going through it with a negative attitude. You're going through it from the place of living out of the ego, instead of going through it in a more spiritual, fulfilling, larger way. And that's why you're watching this video right now, because the minute you start really going through it in a good way, and you start opening your eyes and approaching life from a place of awareness and a deeper reality, once you get that, you exponentially speed up the season. You speed up the dark night of the soul, because you're finally surrendering and you're getting the lesson. You know, take good notes. You know, spend some time journaling and bringing that stuff out. You know, I'm going to talk a little bit more in another video how I came off Facebook and Instagram to go analog, and it's been such a huge blessing in my life, if I could say it, if I could say blessing. It's been so integral in my development right now, and really what I've been looking for. It gave me the space. It freed me up from, okay, I'm bored, I'm stopped at a stoplight, I'm bored, let me check Facebook, let me check Instagram. You know, I'm waiting in line, let me get on the, let me check, you know, did I get any comments on my last quote? Or instead of using that time to go analog, have the phone away, paper and pen style. You know, I'm with the backpack, and I'm hanging out in parks, and I got paper and pen, and I'm opened up to, you know, deeper realities. I'm opened up to things speaking to me in a deeper way, instead of being tethered to my social media and having to take pictures to post on Facebook. Instead of that, I'm able to be in the moment and really grasp the lesson. And so it's a huge game changer for me. I want to recommend, I'm going to do a longer video on that, but I want to recommend you try it. Try to go analog for a little while, because when you do, those things that are in your spirit just start bubbling up, things that need to be dealt with. You know, I started thinking about things that went on, little experiences that went on a month ago, because I was so busy and so stressed out and so tethered to social media that I didn't allow myself to fully process it. And it was just it could have just been a little transaction when I was at the coffee shop, or, walking to the market when we were in Montreal. We just came from a month in Montreal, and before that we were a few months in Florida, and things from Florida were coming up. Things from 6 months ago were coming up that I didn't fully deal with, and it was in there percolating. And finally, I go analog, and I put the backpack back on, and I get out into nature, and those things start bubbling up, so that I could address it, so that I can heal it, so that I could bring clarity to it, so my soul can fully digest it. And I've been so much lighter. I've had amazing revelation. I've had amazing imagination, and I've been able to heal, I think, a lot of stuff that were just inside, clogging me up. It was in there, and it wasn't fully digested, and I was getting spiritual indigestion. But now that I've dealt with some of this stuff, man, I feel so much lighter. I feel clearer. And it's been great. Anyway, I don't want to go too long. I'm almost at 30 minutes with this little ramble. I hope you have a great day. Bless you, man. Go through things well. I'm so cheering for you. And that's it. Have an awesome day, man. Peace.